Avoiding a government shutdown. That's the idea anyway, as the Senate cleared a bill this afternoon to fund the government and the federal response to Zika, avoiding a potentially embarrassing shutdown just weeks before the election. The measure would fund the federal government through December 9th. The House still has to vote on this bill, but they are expected to approve the bill later today, just ahead of the deadline, midnight Friday. But why take it from just me when we can talk to a man who is on the front lines of what happened today to help avoid this government shutdown? That is Congressman Bill Flores, U.S. Congressman. He joins us now on telephone from Washington, D.C., from what has been a busy, busy day. Congressman, what can you tell us about what happened today?
Well, hi, Kathleen. It's great to be with you at First News at 4. Let me say this at the outset. I don't think there was ever really any risk of a government shutdown. We in the House have been working pretty diligently to try to come up with a funding solution to keep that from happening. But what happened today is that the Senate came up with an arrangement to agree on a continuing resolution to fund the government on a short-term basis through December 9th. Now, the Senate has been squabbling over the details of this particular funding bill since early September. And finally, late last night, early this morning, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Minority Leader Harry Reid were able to agree on what components that continuing resolution would have and which components it would not have. And so based on that, they were able to go through the cloture vote or go past the filibuster vote this afternoon and actually approve the bill. So that continuing resolution will be over in the House late this evening, and my expectation is that it will pass sometime around 9 or 10 o'clock this evening.
So as far as you know, there should be no reason that this shouldn't pass in the House this evening.
Well, let me say this. There are some risks because we as conservatives in the House have been encouraging the Senate and our House leadership to improve two critical conservative riders to this. One is to prevent the transfer of the internet from United States oversight to international oversight, and secondly to pause the flow of refugees in the country until they'd properly been vetted from a security standpoint. Unfortunately, neither of those riders were included, and so we're going to lose some conservative votes on the continuing resolution. That said, I do think that a combination of some Republicans and most of the Democrats will cause this to be passed this evening, and the president will sign it.
Sure. So it is not a done deal, but the expectation is high that this will get passed and we will avoid a government shutdown. Of course, that deadline is midnight on Friday. So let's talk about some of the specifics of this budget and this continuing resolution that looks like it might go through. We're talking Zika funding, Flint, Michigan funding, flooding funding, opioid addiction flooding. What can you tell us about some of those issues on this bill?
Well, that's one of the things that made this bill sort of challenging is because it's like a tree with a lot of ornaments on it, and some of the ornaments were good, some of the ornaments were not good, and then there's some ornaments that are totally missing. In terms of the ones that I like, that I think are good, we have military construction funding for the entire fiscal year. So from October 1st to September 30th, that's a good thing. That allows our military to be able to do some of their capital asset planning. The second thing is it has VA funding for the entire fiscal year, so our veterans are not at risk. And then lastly, it includes Zika funding in a responsible manner. The House and Senate each passed different types of Zika bills. The House bill was more responsible from a financial standpoint in terms of not blowing up the deficit. And so there will be there'll be over $1 billion of Zika funding in this bill, again, funded in a responsible manner. So those are the good things. Some of the bad thing is that this is at a high spending level of $1.067 billion on an annualized basis. Some of us would have preferred that this come in at $1.040 billion, but that's where we are at this point. So that's kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And of course, I've already said it had some missing conservative amendments we would have liked to have had.
Sure. But it looks like at the end of the day, it was more important to get something passed to avoid a government shutdown. And Congressman, you mentioned that, you know, from your perspective there in D.C., there wasn't much of a risk of us actually hitting this deadline without a CR or without a budget. But still, I think folks across the country got a little nervous because it hasn't been that long since we had our last government shutdown. So why was it important for you all to get this done for your constituents?
Well, it's important because I don't think that Congress should ever do anything to cause uncertainty among the American people or businesses or the financial markets or anything like that. And so many of us have been working on this for several weeks to try to get it done in a financially or fiscally responsible manner, and also to try to get the right policy writers on it. We didn't achieve everything we wanted, but we at least moved forward in a reasonably responsible way. Again, I don't like the bill, but we didn't want to have any drama at this late stage, and you particularly don't want drama in an election year either.
Sure, understandable. So again, as Congressman Flores has told us, there is a vote in the House tonight to pass this continuing resolution. But Congressman, you are saying you feel confident that that will go through. Congressman Bill Flores, thank you so much for joining us on a busy day like this one.
I enjoyed being with you, and if anybody has any questions, they should call my office.
Absolutely. We will direct them to your office on our website, kbtx.com. That's it for Focus at 4, but we have a whole lot more First News at 4 coming up right after the break.